Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to the Yard. It's a little bit after 5 o'clock Pacific time, which means it's time for us to hit the yard again. In addition to those of us who are joining us in our Zoom room, we're also being seen on Facebook Live, on Twitter, on YouTube. I feel sort of like Larry King on CNN. So we're being seen by hundreds of thousands of people, and soon we're going to be seen by millions of people in prison. We just struck a deal whereby we will be on hundreds of thousands of tablets inside of jails and prisons across the country. The Yard is a production of Commissary Club, which is the first social network for the 70 million Americans that have a criminal record. My name is Richard Bronson. I am the founder and CEO of Commissary Club, as well as 70 Million Jobs, which is the national employment platform for people with records. I'm joined by my good friends and teammates at Commissary Club. Number one, the rapper to the stars, my good friend Divine. Hey D, how are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us as always. And we also have former NBA legend, LA Laker, the great Seth Sundberg. Hey Seth, how are you, big man?
Oh, Richard, you are putting a lot of mustard on that, boy. I tell you what, a lot of mustard.
You're gonna be in the Hall of Fame by the time I'm
done.
Hey, it's only on the yard, brother. Only on the yard.
In front of me.
You know, in prison you can reinvent yourself. You can be anybody you want to be.
That's right.
You got your LeBron James, you got your Michael Jordan, and you got your Seth Sundberg.
It's common that those three names are all put together.
I know. Of course, speaking about Hall of Famers, we're also assisted very ably by another one of our teammates, the very wonderful Adrian Hatter, who's sort of running things behind the scenes. Before we get started, as I always do, a couple of housekeeping items, and then I'm going to be introducing our guests. On the Yard, like on Commissary Club, ultimately our goal is to connect people. And our big vision is that folks with records should be available to one another, to serve as role models, to even inspire one another. And for people who haven't got a record, we'd love those folks to see people that we have as guests, to see them as human beings, not necessarily the crime that they've committed or their rap sheet, but you know, to connect to their undeniable humanity. Our goal is also, as much as possible, with a very limited budget, to kind of create a experience for everybody about what it's like to be incarcerated. We think that if people understand that, only good things can come of that. So we're going to be taking you out to the Yard in a little bit. The Yard is a place that exists in pretty much any prison or jail. It's a big, flat, empty field generally where people have some freedom, get a little sunshine, maybe fresh air, and connect and share and laugh and yell and argue with each other, you know, share some good news and maybe share some bad news. We would love everybody, as far as our guests are concerned, number one, to stay on topic as it relates to the in-prison experience. That's what we're focused on. Certainly, there's a lot to be said for how people get to prison, what they did and what the world was that brought them to that place. And certainly, more importantly, it's what they're doing now out of prison. But for the yard, we want to talk about what it's like in prison. So please, everybody, let's stay focused on that if you can. For the folks who are watching and listening, please do ask questions and make comments by using the chat function on the bottom of the screen. But again, try to focus your questions and comments on the in-prison experience. From time to time, we are known to bring people onto the yard with us so that they can share in the conversation or ask questions or yell at us or whatever you feel motivated to do. If you do have something to say or just want to hang out with us, message Adrian through the chat function again, and we'll see what we can do. So without further ado, I'm going to ask everybody to join me in an exercise that we do on every episode of The Yard. I'm going to ask everybody here, all of our hosts, all of our guests, and everybody else who's participating, please, first of all, just take a deep breath. It's been a tough day for many. Just take a deep breath and let your breath out slowly. After you've done that, please close your eyes. The idea here is we'd love you to get a little air into your brain so that your mind has the freedom to wander a little bit and your imagination can roam with us. People on the yard, people in our audience, indeed people in prison and jails. I mean, they come from all kinds of backgrounds. There are people who are very, very affluent. And there are people who come from very middle class world. Some of them come from, you know, a world of economic challenges and hardship. They struggle week to week to pay the rent and put food on the table, certainly. And I think it's fair to say that over the last 14 months or so, taking care of basic needs has represented a huge challenge for many, many people. So maybe with your eyes closed, you know, you can sort of put yourself in this position. Maybe it resonates with you, maybe it's a stretch, but see if you can relate to this struggle as if it were your family going through it. That your family is feeling the pinch, that you're having trouble paying the rent and the landlord is losing his patience with you. You've got a son who's in high school and he is the light of your life. He's a great kid. He's always gotten great grades. He's never had a moment's problem for you. Your family, I mean, your son, I should say, he knows full well that the family's going through a tough time. And being the kid that he is, he wants to pitch in, he wants to help. Now, your son has friends that he's grown up with who are involved with dealing drugs. Now, normally he would avoid their company like the plague because he knows associating with them can mean big trouble. And he's too smart to do that. But right now, times are tough. And right now, he feels a need to help contribute to the family's finances. So what he does is he connects with his old friends he grew up with. He connects with them on the street and he starts working with them. You know, they're in the drug business and he starts making some pretty good money doing it out on the street. You know, he cannot wait to come home with the first $1,000 that he's earned. That's what's on his mind that day, except the day is really going to play out very differently for both him and your family. You see, the police have been watching your son and his friends sling drugs on the street now for about a week, and they're about ready to round them all up right now. So as he's standing out there, you know, thinking about how he's going to help his family, all at once, the air is full of sirens racing to where he's standing. And they grab your son and they throw him across a patrol car hood. and they start frisking him. And of course, they discover that his pockets are filled with the cocaine that he's been selling. And in a blur, he's handcuffed and he's read his rights and he's thrown into a van along with his friends and he's on his way to central booking. And in a blur of a moment, your son's plans to use the scholarship that he had won to go to college, well, those plans have been destroyed. His life has been destroyed just in that moment. And now your family is joining the millions of other families in this country that include a convicted felon. Now, of course, you're going to visit your son every chance you can. And he tells you when you visit him, of course, about the inedible food. And he tells you about the shoddy medical care. And he tells you about his fellow inmates who are being carried out in stretchers as they contract the coronavirus because nobody in his particular prison where he has been receiving the vaccination. And of course, as parents, you fight back the tears because you're going through this nightmare as much as your son is, the son that you love so much, the son for whom you've invested all of your dreams and hopes. And when you ask him at his typical day, though, there's one time that he smiles. He smiles when he tells you about that 1 hour a day they let him out onto the yard. That 1 hour a day where he can go and hang out with his friends. That 1 hour a day when he can make believe that his life wasn't destroyed that day for making a stupid mistake for all the right reasons. You wish you could be out there on the yard with him instead of this dingy, cramped, either too hot or too cold room where visitation always occurs. But today, let's go out and join him on the yard. Let's go out and join him along with all the other sons who are there, who made terrible choices out of desperation or just because they wanted to be successful. And let's meet a few of the people who your sons hang out with. Two of them are no strangers to the yard. First, I'd like you to meet our good friend, Seth Ferranti. Seth wanted to turn on the world when he was younger by selling them LSD and pot. He traveled around the country to watch the Grateful Dead, going from college campus to college campus. But the authorities saw this hippie kid a lot differently than that. And they slapped him with a 25-year prison sentence. Now, like so many others with long sentences, Seth started writing, and Seth discovered he was damn good at it. He started publishing books and he wrote films. And when he got out, he was part of an amazing documentary that's appearing right now on Netflix. It's called White Boy. And if you don't check it out, you'll be missing it. I promise you, you'll love it. Check it out, White Boy on Netflix, and welcome, Seth. Great to have you back, brother.
Thanks, man. You know what? I think I need to hire you as my publicist.
Man, you got to
That was
get
awesome.
Richard.
That was awesome. I'm telling you, man. I don't think I could pay somebody they couldn't have done it that
Hey,
good.
you know what? We're doing a meditation class on Commissary Club, and Richard's leading it. So
Yeah, and that,
awesome.
Today's yard story was just that was a tearjerker, Richard. I'm sorry, man. It sounded like my life.
It got to me too, D. Joining Seth is another dear friend of ours, Craig Cesal. Craig's story is amazing. 20 years ago, Craig was in business leasing tractor trailers. That was his company. He made a mistake one day because he leased one of his tractor trailers to someone who was in the business of hauling tons of marijuana. And Craig ended up getting implicated in the whole mess. And Craig received, get this, a life sentence. That's right, a life sentence for being peripherally involved with marijuana. Seth served a lot of time, but a couple of months ago, Seth received an interesting
Craig,
call while he was in prison.
All these Seths and Craigs. I don't know if you're talking about me or Seth or Craig or Craig.
You said Seth instead of Craig.
You said Seth.
That's his middle name. I'm sorry. Craig Cesal received a call, an interesting call while he was in prison. It was from the Trump White House. And Craig received word that his sentence had been commuted and Craig was set free, as he is right now. Now, Craig is spending his time working to help and free others who are also been incarcerated because of selling pot. He works with an organization called the Last Prison Project, an amazing organization. Craig, my brother, it's wonderful to see you.
Craig.
Welcome to the yard, Craig.
Thank you. Okay.
Once again.
Welcome back. Yeah, round
Welcome
2.
back. All right, and then last but not least, certainly, we have someone who's new to the yard. And of course, his name also is Craig. His name is Craig Rothfeld. Craig's background is actually very similar to mine. He ran his own financial services firm, which got into some financial trouble. He ended up taking the fall for it, and he received an 18-month sentence in prison. But interesting, when he got out, like so many other returning citizens, Craig wanted to take what he learned and help others going through the criminal justice system. So he launched a company called the Inside Outside Advisory Service. When Harvey Weinstein needed to understand what awaited him when he was going to prison, he contacted Craig for help and advice. Craig, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Richard.
Craig.
Good to see you all. Thanks, everybody.
I normally, I went on a whole big thing about talking about, the prison experience, but, Craig Rothfeld, given the work that you do, and Craig Cesal, the work you do, and so many other people we know, I just have to address this. What is it about people who come out of prison when you might expect that they would want to stay away from the whole experience, put it behind them, forget about it, never return, and yet so many of them feel motivated and inspired to stay involved, to help their fellow brothers and sisters, either going into prison while they're in prison or to help them with their reentry. Craig Rothfeld, let's start with you. What is it about us that keeps us sort of connected to all of this?
My answer might surprise you. I actually want to stay as close to the criminal justice system as I can and make sure I never go back. And I mean, that's just brutal honesty about me as a person. I think like any of us who have been inside, if you don't have the "what the fuck am I doing here" moment, then something's wrong, and you figure some things out about yourself. And so for me, I know enough to know, and it's not that I'm worried, but living it still every day is both cathartic for me, and it's a constant reminder. It's just a constant reminder of where I never, ever, ever, want to go back to. I think that's the first answer. The second answer is, a lot of the people here have done federal time. I mean, I did New York State time, and it's a corrupt Byzantine black hole. And as much as I feel like I'm helping my actual client who's inside, it's the families that I care about just as much, if not more. Right. And I know what it was like for my family and my friends to go through it. And, it's horrible. It's a horrible situation. And so, where people might take inventory of my clients, I feel like I'm able to give back to the families. And that's a significant part of it. And I think the third thing is I just, sitting in there all that time, I was just like, how can I not use this for something? This wasn't, I just figured I'd write a book like Seth. Seth, I was going to come out and write a book. I'm still writing it, but that was the plan, and then get on with my life. And so I think that's it, Richard. It's those three things. Okay.
Thank you. Cecil, you're very much involved with something, that directly relates to your experience. What's your motivation?
A lot of it is, as you know, I spent 19 years in federal prison, and I went in as a paralegal, and I as a lifer, I couldn't be threatened with taking my good time. I wasn't afraid of going to the shoe. I did my shoe time. So I led the fights about the food. I led the fights about medical. I wrote all the grievances for people, and every institution I was in, the warden knew my full name. But
A hero.
being in that fight, I also watched a lot of people that got out of prison and went to nothing. They had nowhere to live. They had no family support. They they were a disaster in the making. And sure enough, we'd see them back 6 or 8 or 9 months later because they reoffended. They started selling drugs again. They were on drugs again. They were, coming back because they had no hope. They had no future. So what I've been lucky enough to do is I've hooked up with the Last Prisoner Project, where I can help people getting out of prison. I can help them with some money to pay a couple of months rent, to buy some clothes, to just kind of jumpstart their lives. But also, we can keep them from going back. We can help them get jobs. We can do all that kind of stuff for people. Because in the prison, things are so bad and you're treated so badly. It's time to fight and, turn it around as I'm able to for at least a few.
That's great. Seth, you're Seth Ferranti.
This is going to be a clip.
Ferranti.
I was going to talk.
Show
I was going to talk about Seth Ferranti's artistry. He's a filmmaker and a writer, but I could certainly talk about your Seth Sundberg's artistry on the basketball court.
Oh, I thought you were going to go my stick figuring. I thought that was the artistry.
No.
I am a skilled stick figurist.
Watching you is watching a great, ballet dancer. Just an expression of the human 7'3" form. Ferranti, you've taken your experiences, and you live and you breathe them, and they come out in every page of every book you've written and every word that you've put down in print, and they come out in every film that you're involved with. What's your fascination? Why can't you get away from all this shit?
Man, I don't know. When I was young, I wanted to be an outlaw. I wanted to be in the counterculture. And then, because of that, I got slammed. I got 25 years, and then I wanted to be a convict. And, then as, I got older.
Wait. You wanted to be a convict.
When you go in and you got 25 years, you got to prove your bones. You don't want to be like some chump in there and someone's just going to take advantage and like take your commissary or do worse. So, you got to prove. I went to prison at 22, and I didn't start in the USPs, but I started in the medium highs, and back then in the 90s, they called that the gladiator school.
That's right.
So, you had to fight or shut up, that's how it was. And, so I wanted to be a convict, I was trying to prove that I was a man, because I had a lot of time to do. And anybody that's been in prison, they know your reputation precedes you. Once you get a jacket, it sticks with you. It's a small system. So, eventually over time, as I got into education and stuff, I evolved as a person, and a big person that helped me was out with someone you had a couple weeks ago, Michael Santos. I was with him, and he kind of helped me change my mindset, and he kind of helped me evolve from this prison mentality to trying to do stuff, on the outside and get recognition on the outside. So I don't know, but I wanted to be recognized. I wanted to put stuff out to the world. I was very angry about my sentence. And that was kind of like my therapy, but still to this day, if you watch White Boy, White Boy is about, it's about someone who was over sentenced. It's about, corrupt cops. But White Boy is still gangster. It's still a gangster film, so, I like that gangster stuff. But now as an older man, I can balance,
gangster shit.
That gangster stuff, with the criminal justice reform, and the systematic oppression, and all the racial inequality. I've learned, where as a young man, I kind of just more glorified it or romanticized it, and I wanted to be that tough guy, where now I evolved, I don't have to be that tough guy. I did stuff like Craig did. I would help people, in the law library. I would file grievances. I probably didn't go as hard as Craig because he sounds like he went pretty hard. You know what I'm saying? But
Craig's over there like, follow me, guys. Let's go. We're gonna fix this.
But I was probably the dude in the law library. Like I would try and help some other people, and I would go to Craig and find out like how to help them.
Right.
So instead of from getting my respect, as a wannabe tough guy, I turned into getting my respect, for using my brains and for helping people and for helping the cause.
So D, as Seth was talking about his desire to establish himself as a tough guy, you were responding like, yeah, I get it. I mean, but that's not who you wanted to be when you went to prison.
Nah, I'll be real with you. When I went to prison, man, I wanted to get in and get out. I had 84 months, 7 years. I'm like, yo, I got to get home to my son. I can get back home to that money. Like that was, I didn't have no mistake about it. Like what I was going to do when I got back out. I was going through hardships with not having any family to support me, earning 12 cents an hour, to then getting in Unicorn, making maybe $1 an hour, where I was able to support myself with $100 a month. So it was like, I was just more determined, like, yo, I'm going to just get through this as quick as possible, as straight as I can to get home. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to get home. I wanted to get out. You know what I mean? But I do understand, like, I went to a medium high when I first went in the system. They test you. They put you on high to see what you do. I went through Oklahoma, the processing center at the time. Went through Oklahoma, went right to Ashland, Kentucky. Medium high, was there for 6 months. But yeah, I knew what it was. Like, I understood the culture of prison just intuitively. I knew what it was. You know what I mean? So you have to establish yourself. You definitely can't be a punk, period. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a rough ride for you.
Did you, Seth Sundberg, did you, this is
everybody gets a number.
If there's someone named Richard in the audience, come on, please come join us.
Richard, I could go with my prison name if you want. You want me to rename myself?
Yeah, let's do that. Everybody, what's their prison name?
What was your prison name? And keep it clean.
Yeah, right.
When you came into
there
prison,
it is. It's up.
The rabbi. That's a good one.
The rabbi. All right.
That's a good one.
Okay, I like that.
Craig.
Sundberg, did you feel like you were in county first, right, Seth?
Yeah, I did.
Where things get pretty tough. Did you feel like you had to be a tough guy to let people know that?
No, one of the things I learned a while ago in prison actually kind of just shook a lot of the shit that I was unsure about. But like, you got to be yourself, and I'm not a tough guy. Like I'm a big dude, but so people want to kind of try and test me too. But it's more like I don't have a big interest in that, and doing all that. So people get it after a while.
Rothfeld, you don't mind if I use you, Rabbi.
There you go.
So now you advise people what to expect when they walk into a prison. When you were walking into that prison, what was that first step from when you were outside the prison and you crossed that line and now you're in prison and now you're a prisoner? What was that first step like for you? You remember it?
Yeah, of course. I as you were saying, the rabbi, I have vivid flashbacks to coming out of the C dorm at Ogdensburg, which is on the Canadian border, and the COs would just be like, "Yo, rabbi!" I mean, like they would just scream it. That's what they named. So I guess there's a couple of answers to that because I was indicted on February 6, 2014. They banged on the door at 6 a.m. in my apartment. They took me downtown and we had a bail hearing. So my first experience with prison was being held at 100 Center Street. And then after the bail hearing, I went into the Tombs, and I posted bail. So that was a Thursday. My family posted bail Friday. The DA contested it just to, send a message. So my first experience was in the Tombs for a Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday till 6 o'clock. So there's that experience. There's the second time I went back to the Tombs when I was sentenced. I got out on bail. And then there's, I don't know which one you want to pick for, because unlike federal, where, you know, like, hey, I'm here and you remand yourself, the state's very different. So there's the Tombs, there's Rikers, and then there's the rest of the journey. So I just, you know, what I'll say is the day I was indicted and I was there, it's just a total haze. The whole thing was a total haze. And the first 36 to 48 hours in the Tombs it's brutal. You're in a 10 by 10 holding cell. You know, at any point in time, there were 15 guys in there with you. You know, all the stories you hear, like guys shitting drugs, you know, was going on. Guys were smoking joints in there. I mean, it was a circus. Mm-hmm. I mean, the cops were like in the middle of the bullpen. They didn't care. I mean, it was just, they didn't care what anyone did as long as they weren't going to beat them up. And I mean, I slept on the floor, on my coat, in my jeans that I went downtown when I got indicted. And I didn't get bedded. I didn't get a cell in the Tombs for 36 hours. And it was brutal. I mean, what's going to happen in my life. I mean, you're in total shock too. I mean, I have vivid memories, Richard, very vivid memories, but most of it, I think, was just, that time was just pure shock. Yeah. Absolute pure shock.
Craig Cesal, you had gotten this ridiculous sentence, you know, for being involved with pot. I'm here in California where pot couldn't be more legal and glorified and commercialized in beautiful stores. It's like walking into Neiman Marcus, and yet you received a life sentence behind it. As you were going into prison, I know you kind of assumed at some point it would be overturned, right? But still, you had no idea when that might happen. So it had to be pretty damn real for you when you walked in there. How real was it?
Well, I told you I started out at USP Atlanta back in 2002. And it was a pen back then. And my reputation from leading fights in the county jail had already preceded me. So I wasn't there for long, and they sent me to a brand new prison that was just opening. They sent me to USP Big Sandy, Kentucky. I was amongst the first 21 inmates sent there.
Shit.
But I got there, and of that first 21, 3 of them already had bodies in the BOP. They had already killed other prisoners. Almost everybody had more than life. And it just didn't seem like this was going to work out very well.
It was not going to work out well. It couldn't go well. Did you fear for your life at that point?
No, I was more confused because I was the only one with, no experience in prison. And of all things, they made me the lead cook. And I didn't know anything about prison food and cooking for a lot of people or anything else. But it did garner me some support from the people that liked the food and liked the fact that I would give them as much as they wanted. I didn't care how much they yelled at me. If they wanted 5 pieces of chicken, that's what they got. So I didn't last long as a cook, but it started me out on the right foot.
Made friends quick with the chicken, trust me.
That's right.
Thursday.
Chicken's like crack cocaine in there. It's like hustling a brick.
I get my protein.
Exactly.
But then when they opened the law library, I was the first law library clerk. So I'm the guy they needed. I'm the guy that could help them get out of prison, who could help them, fight what the Bureau of Prisons was doing to them and all that. So what I did is I started basically giving myself worth. I was worth it to people, because I could help them with this, I could help them with that.
But when you're hanging out with some of these guys, there was very few of you, so you couldn't really avoid them. And there were guys there that had killed other inmates in the past. So these were pretty hard guys, right? Were you just smiling and you were just Craig, just the sort of, you weren't living in fear. You weren't making chicken all day, I'm sure.
No, as a matter of fact, when I went into the prison, I was just the opposite of when I went out. When I went in, I did more listening than talking. So. 19 years later, I was the one making all the noise.
Ferranti, you were a kid and you went in there knowing you were going to be there for a while, but you were into, selling LSD and pot and colleges and whatever. I mean, so that was not your world, right? A tough guy in prison.
No, I mean, it was culture shock, I mean, and like I said, a tough guy, but I said a wannabe tough guy too. So it's like, you put on a mask in there, you know what I'm saying? So you put out this hard image, but really it's to keep other people away. Like I really wasn't comfortable, being myself until, probably like 7, 8 years in, because it was such culture shock to me. Because I was a military brat. I grew up in the suburbs, so being thrown into prison, with like gangbangers, mafioso, bank robbers, dudes like that. I mean, it was definitely like, I just kind of, I was quiet, but at the same time, you can't. I mean, if someone tries to violate you, you got to answer in kind, because it's like if you get a reputation, something, it's going to follow you, and then it's going to be open season. And really, in prison, when it becomes open season, the worst people are your own people who are going to come at you.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we have a very special guest because 6 of us is not enough. 7 is the lucky number. I want to welcome to our family and to the yard, Roger Cullen, who just joined us here. Roger has told us that he was just let out of Colorado State Prison. Roger was down for 39 years.
Yeah.
And now he's out. So welcome, Roger, and welcome home.
Welcome,
brother.
Roger. Congratulations on your release.
Really, it's amazing to have you here, and thank you for joining us. How long have you been out?
I'm actually on ISPI, which is intensive supervision parole for an inmate. I got out March 23rd, 2020. So it's just been a little over a year. I just went to parole board on May 10th. I've been full boarded. I'll probably get paroled and be on parole. I went to prison in 1981.
Wow.
And I was involved with crime, like organized crime. Bad drug deal went down. There was a group of us. I was responsible for the murder of a person, but there actually were 2 people murdered. So when I went to prison, prison was prison. And I opened up this maximum security prison in Canyon City, Colorado. Did 5 years there. Went to Shadow Mountain, which is a medium high security, and then opened up another prison called Ordway or Arkansas Valley and stayed 10 years there. So I did a tour of prisons for about 10 different prisons over those 39 years. Wow. And I've seen it all. And I have been actually been a victim at times of things that have gone on. So I'm listening to you guys. This is my first time I actually had an opportunity to get on here to hear you guys. I've been trying to get on. Sometimes my schedule has been a little tight, but I'm glad to hear what some of you are saying and hearing. My story was a little bit different.
Yeah, it sounds like, so what are you doing now, number one?
Well, I am a shop manager for a Hell Pro Co., which is a dentless paint repair and collision shop here in Denver, Colorado. I've been a shop manager there for that 7 months. And then before that, I was a shop manager laborer over at a place where we built gloves and dispensers for the COVID. When I got out, Denver, it was interesting. I got out of prison on 39 years, came to Denver, and the city was on lockdown like a prison because of the COVID.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Very similar. Hey, Roger, I got a question for you. You talk about being a shop manager. I mean, it's like managing a shop, after doing 39 years and being out for a year, is pretty good, right? What did you do? Did you take a lot of the classes inside? Did you learn shop skills and things like that while you were down?
Actually, I've got 2 college degrees. I'm a United States Department of Labor certification journeyman. I taught journeyman classes for industrial housekeeping for 5 years. Certified dog trainer. I got a list that is about 36 items long.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting, right? Because I mean, that like people that get to be successful, there's no substitute for education, right? And people that, whether you use your time learning, whether you could read or write or not, you use your time learning, talking to other people, right? It benefits. I mean, I know that everybody on here, feels that way and has done those things. I got a question for everybody. I want to do a quick poll while we're all on here because I'm super curious about this. So we talked about the law library, right? And Craig C was in the law library as a law clerk, et cetera. Like, how many hours do each of you think that you spent in the law library while you were down? Like, just throw out a number. Just spit it out. I mean, is it?
How many of us were convinced we were filing something that would get us out like within a week?
Yeah.
Guilty.
I was so convinced.
2255. Send it in.
Oh man, that
Pack up your Macs.
ruling was about me. And if the guards just don't know it, but if they knew what I knew, they'd be opening the door right now for me.
Exactly. My motion is going to get granted. I'll be out of here soon enough.
Wow. Just before we go away, after 39 years, do you have family that you're back with, or friends, or are you really just sort of starting all over from scratch? If you don't mind me asking.
No, I'm fine with that. I'm very transparent. I got saved. I turned my life over to Christ when I was in the county jail in El Paso County Jail in Colorado Springs, 1981. The first 5 years was hell, straight up hell. And I didn't have much family. My dad and my stepmother pretty much cut me off because of the crime. They didn't want nothing to do with me. So what happened was in 92, I started an in-prison ministry. It became very successful. And I heard one of the men say that everywhere he went, he was known by wardens and superintendents and stuff because of his reputation. I was the same way, but my reputation was for helping people. So I ministered to thousands of men over those years. And many of those men and their families became my family, you might say, became my friends. Actually, so when I got out, I had a support system that was phenomenal.
Really?
But it wasn't family as of flesh and blood.
But it's still family, yeah.
Yes, it's family like you guys who had been with me, who had been touched my life. I was there to help them. I laid my life down in line for some of them, helped them financially, spiritually, whatever we could do for one another. As you know, you do that in prison with one another.
That's the whole reason we created Commissary Club, is to be able to go, hey, why is this not happening outside?
Community.
That's what happened. That's how everybody survives inside.
Yeah,
Everybody looking out for each other. And then when you get out, it's like you can't look out for each other. You don't know how to connect. You don't do nothing. So
and now
care packages.
I'm actually an associate pastor now in a church.
Okay.
And a lot of the people I know hundreds and hundreds of people, many of them are out. And so they have been there beside me since I've been out, helping me walk through this, all the emotional, mental transformations and transitions you've had to go through.
Yeah, what kept you so like, what fortified your mind, man? Like 39 years, man. That's a long time, man.
Absolutely.
What was it that got you through it? Like, was it? It had to be like a daily routine. Was it spiritual stuff? Was like, just give me an idea of what,
Sure.
What kept you sane, man?
Well, it is. I would tell you, it was spiritual. It was my relationship with Christ first and foremost. I struggled my first 5 years trying to be a Christian in prison, because the concept is you're to treat people with respect and love one another. And I found men wanting to try to abuse me and hurt me at times. And I'm a fighter from past. I martial arts, boxing and stuff like that. And I can be very violent. So I didn't want to do that. But after I realized, I don't have to be a coward and I don't have to be a doormat, I kind of stood up for myself. And when they found out that I could fight, and you know what I'm talking about, nobody on this program doesn't know what I'm talking about. Then they said, whoa, you're a different kind of Christian. And I said, well,
You're a fighting Christian.
You look at Christian that was out with that machine gun in that movie. I forgot the name of it.
So
I
this
kept
is a
myself-
great topic, which I think might surprise a lot of people, is this sense in prison of how much support and community and brotherhood and family exists amidst all the violence and all the terrible stuff and the inhumanity. At the same time, somehow or another coexists like connections. Often, the first thing that happened to me when I walked into prison was guys came up to me with toothbrushes and flip-flops with a shower and whatever. And I thought, what's their angle? What are they trying to, I'm not going to take anything from anybody, but they were really there just to, pay it forward or whatever. Was that a surprise to you, Cecil, when you went to prison, that there were actually people who were sort of looking out for one another and gave a shit?
Oh yeah, even amongst those first 21 inmates at the Big Sandy Penitentiary, since they knew I was the new guy, I didn't know any prison rule, prison jargon. They interpreted for me. They told me the rules. I mean, and mostly in a good way. They took in my situation, and really all of them reached out to help me, even the ones that had reputations for killing people.
Yeah.
I think you find that a lot in federal prison versus state prison. I've been
Very different in state prison.
I've been in both environments. Exactly.
Well, explain that, Craig.
I mean, it is not. Yeah, I mean, that is not what it's like in state prison. I mean, when I spent I did 4 days in the Tombs. I got bailed out. Then when I was sentenced, I was in the Tombs for 3 days, and then I went to Rikers. I spent 5 weeks and 3 days at Rikers, and I mean, I'm not standing up, Seth, but I'm 5'6" on my best day with my best shoes. I mean, I'm a white Jewish mama's boy, and I walked into Rikers, and I mean, look, the way I explain it is, think of like a World War II hospital dorm. Just a big, rectangle was where the bed, and you got 20 beds on the left wall, 20 beds down the middle, 20 beds down the right, and 60 guys in the dorm. There were 58 when I walked in, and 43 of them were Bloods.
Oh,
and
man.
The top 4 Bloods were staked out in the 4 corners. And I mean,
yeah,
I was hoping not to get killed. I mean, someone walked up to me when I got there. I mean, I found out 10 days later that they thought I was an undercover cop. Thankfully, and I say this seriously, thankfully they steal your NICID number when you get in there. They steal your ID number, and they have their people on the outside run it to find out whether or not you're a real criminal or not. Yeah. So like they did that pretty quick with me. And then, look, a lot of the racial, stereotypes that you can think or not think. I mean, I was one of 4 white guys in the dorm. It's 43 Bloods, and everyone else was either like Latino or Mexican. And, half the people in there wouldn't even talk to me because I was white. And, a couple of them figured out that I could read and write, and, everyone's talked about what they gave back. I mean, I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of Spanish to English translation the 5.5 weeks I was there. And, ultimately it worked out okay for me. But I mean, I saw all hell break loose in there many, many times. And so initially it wasn't that way, Richard, but I was very smart. I never used my intelligence as a weapon, ever. I knew enough to do that. And ultimately what I figured out was in that dorm, as long as you weren't doing anything to threaten their business, because there's more crime in prison than there is outside of prison, in my opinion. As long as I wasn't doing anything to screw up with what they were doing, they were going to leave me alone, right? They didn't want to hate crime because I was Jewish. I wasn't getting up in their face, so I steered clear of it. But no one was looking. In state prison, no one's, 90%, 99% of the people you're going to meet aren't looking out for you. There are a couple of people that you can get that little community with. It's very, very different than federal. I mean, there are no minimums in state. There's 4 minimums at a work release facilities. So I worked in the library. I didn't work in the library. I worked in a library with a guy that was in there for, got 25 to life for murder. I mean, the state's very different than federal.
Yeah, I was in the Rikers too, as well as federal. And it's like you say, it's a world of difference.
I like to point out something. We're talking about like the differences, the world of difference. And we talked about this before, Richard, on the yard, where the prison experience for somebody who comes from a criminal background, they're in the projects, they grew up, most like person of color that's in the projects and living this criminal lifestyle. When they go to prison, they experience it in a whole different way. There's no shock, there's no surprise. We know what it is. And then you have people who come from a white collar background, Seth Ferranti, he said a military, Richard yourself, Wall Street. It's a whole different experience. It's crazy how you have these like socioeconomic background plays so much in how somebody experiences prison and the justice system in general, right?
Divine. It's the most startling thing to me about Rikers was how many times everyone I met there that would talk to me had already been in. 2 times,
My point
3
exactly.
times. One guy talked about doing a 5-year bid, like he was like, going on vacation.
Exactly.
I mean, it was like, I remember being in the holding pen before I got to my spot in Rikers. I thought I was at a camp reunion. I'm not even joking.
So that is a very widely held kind of belief that people who haven't gone through the criminal justice system, many of them hold, is that there are certain people who want to be in prison, that's their best life they're going to lead, that they belong there, they know it, they get 3
square meals a day.
3 square,
Three hots in
squares of bed and clothing.
3 hots in the cot.
Yeah.
3 hots in the cot. Yeah.
And that they have friends there, and we talked last week about they keep their sneakers white and their clothes, their khakis pressed.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not so bad for them. And I always tell them that's bullshit. Nobody wants to be in prison. Go there one day, you'll understand. Nobody wants there. But is there something, Ferranti, that like with certain people who feel like this is where they belong? I mean, isn't that'd be a pretty terrible thing if that were true, but does it exist?
No, this is what I think personally, and I've developed this more as I've gotten older, after I did 2 decades, and I've been out 7 years. But like when you're in there, like you act like it's nothing because it's alpha male, it's alpha male society, man. Everything, it's like machoism, to the 150%. So everybody acts like, oh, this ain't nothing, brush it off, whatever. I'm macho, I'm tough, I'm this, I'm that. But really, when you start looking at, so that's the attitude. That's like how Divine said, like, the dude's coming, oh yeah, 5 years is nothing, whatever, I can do this, all my homies are here, and even like me, after you've been in for a while, after I, had done like 7, 8, 9 years, I know a lot of people, so you start acting like that. But really, when you think about it, man, it's, and anybody that's older and has reflected and been through it and came out the other side, and kind of lost that prisoner mentality, it's a dehumanizing experience, right? I mean, because anybody that's been through transit and the way they run you through and they strip you down and you got 60 dudes standing naked in a line so you can bend over and cough and they can, look up your butthole. I mean, that is the most dehumanizing experience. But when it's going on, when you're in there, it's casual. You act like this ain't nothing. That's the mentality that people develop, but as you get older, or you've been through it and you come out the other side, then you realize, it's such a dehumanizing experience. And yeah, so I think even those people that act like, this is where I want to be. I mean, it's just, they're trying to be casual. They're trying to fit in. They're trying to say like, this ain't nothing. This is like no sweat off my back. I can do, like, I heard people, I could do time all day. Why would you want to do time all day? That's crazy. But it's for that machoism, it's for that alpha male society. You're trying to prove that I'm the elite of the prison. Because think, when you're in there, what else do you got? What else do you got?
I have to definitely have to chime in on this, because when you look at people who come from a low socioeconomic background where criminal behavior and a criminal lifestyle is like the code of the streets, you going to prison is like a badge of honor.
Right.
If you go to prison, you're like the OG, you're like the dude that's looked up to. Oh, he went to prison. Like, oh shit, like the dude did 10 joints. Like, you know what I mean? So them type of dudes who are institutionalized like that and go in and out of prison, they never change from doing crime. I mean, I was one of them. I wasn't so far left that I wasn't able to break out of it. But it took me a while to break out of, recidivism and all these different things. I don't feel I was institutionalized, but I was definitely, I definitely, crime was my way of life. You know what I mean? Criminal activity was my way of life. So that always led to prison. Some dudes come home, the dude who got in the block, you see him in the projects all the time. He's all built stocky, coming through the block. You like, oh shit, dude's home. You know what I mean? Dudes is running and shit because they know he gonna knock dudes out and take whatever valuables they got, whether it's drugs, money, or jewels or whatever. And these are the type of dudes that institutionalized. They don't know how to come home and readjust. They going right back the following week or 2 weeks later, whatever it is. So it was very common to see that.
Roger, are you afraid of going back?
I would never dream it. I had a passing thought a couple times, but for me, I would tell you, because I've known many men, some of them never getting out of prison, some who came in, like you said, overnight. They did their little 2 or 3 year bit, 16-month bit, 5-year bit.
Right.
And I've seen the rotating doors, but I would tell you secretly, because I've had to minister and speak to many of them, that they would cry when they're alone. They would be calling on the phone, missing their families, missing their loved ones, wanting money, wishing they hadn't done what they did. But when they get off, they have to put the front up and put the face up to, hey, I can handle this, it's me, because they're fearful, because they're afraid of other people taking advantage of them, or people seeing them as weak. Because if you appear weak in prison, it's like you're like the sheep among wolves. You know that. There ain't nobody on here doesn't know that. But I would tell you secretly, when they're by themselves late at night, they'll cry like a woman, brother. I've been there. Cry. Hey, man, how long is this going to be? Why am I not out yet? Why am I having to do all these years?
Did you ever feel that way in prison?
Huh?
Did you ever feel that way?
Absolutely. There are many times I ask myself, how much longer do I have to do? I fought my case for 18 years off and on. So you talk about law library. Yeah, I've been in there many years.
Do you feel you're institutionalized, Roger?
Brother, I'll tell you, because I stayed positive and I kept myself in a belief system of what the Bible teaches, which was my standard of living, even in prison. Men respected me. Why? Because I about 2 years into the system, I made a divine, you might say, a decision, and it cost me to stand on my own 2 feet and not become like the system. I fought everything against it. I didn't get tattoos. I didn't join gangs. But those men, the men, as they saw me do that, they gained a respect for me and said, you know what? He's real.
You rejected the stereotypical process that someone goes through when they go to prison. Oh, I'm gonna get the tattoos. I'm gonna fit in with the gang. I'm gonna be the tough guy.
Nope.
This, that, and the third. You rejected all that.
Yes, that spoke more to men, that gave them hope than anything else. And Divine, I can relate to you, brother, because I knew many of men like you. Many of them are still my friends. So I relate to you.
Thank you.
That means a lot, man. Saying. Absolutely.
So you didn't have because real quick, not to cut your wisdom, but when Seth Ferranti was saying was that he had to take on this role, right? He felt he had to take on this role, be something to somebody he really wasn't, because he was in an environment that was hostile, environment that was volatile. Anytime something could pop off, he knew he couldn't be weak. But it wasn't about him not being weak or being strong. It was about him just trying to be who he was, but he couldn't be that because his environment dictated it. You decided that, I'm gonna reject every prison stereotype that exists. I'm not gonna join a gang. I'm not gonna get tattooed. I'm not gonna be, brutalize people, be violent.
And Divine, it's interesting. I know the Bloods, the Crips, the Notorios and Serenos and stuff, GKIs. I know many of the shot callers that were in prison. I was, because of the kind of man I was, they knew they could trust me. I could go and talk to them, many times intervene, stopping things from happening. Because after about 10, 15, 20 years, you got a little bit of respect.
Right. They knew you, they seen you, okay, they seen you as neutral, and they also seen you as they seen you as neutral, first of all, and they seen you as someone who could give them insights and intelligence on whatever was going on, whatever situation might be.
All right.
Is that correct?
Richard, can I ask a question of Seth and Craig and Roger?
Absolutely.
So, guys, I got sentenced to 1.5 to 4.5. It was a split bid in the state. So unless I committed a crime in prison, the max I was doing was 3 years. That's how state time works in New York. So, so I made parole and I got home in 18 months. And, people always say, oh, you're not to minimize time and stuff like that. For me, getting through the 18 months, I just set up like mile markers, like it was easy for me to break down the 18 months because there were things that I could potentially see that would get me to the next place. And while 18 months is still 18 months relative to Roger's 39 years and Craig, your time and Seth, the question that I always want to ask is like, I can't comprehend doing that time. And I did 18 months. Like, what kept you going? Like, what were you saying to yourself at all times?
So, okay, that's a great question, Craig. That applies to Roger and to Seth and to Craig. But we got limited time. So I mean, these guys could talk about this for 9 years each. So what I'd love to see is Cecil, give me a sentence in answer to Craig Rothfeld's very good question. You had a big sentence. You did a lot of time. Someone who did a short amount of time, which still seemed like a long amount of time, how the hell, what went through your mind? Did you figure out a trick? What did you tell yourself to get you through it? And tell me that answer in like a sentence or two.
Well, I had a life sentence, so I never had an out day. But what I did instead is I made every day useful. I fought the system. I fought for my own case. I fought for other people's cases. So I replaced looking at an out date, looking at, how miserable I was. I replaced it with trying to make progress, trying to make myself.
So you had a
valuable.
clear mission that you were working on.
Right.
And that's, you replaced the sentence with, you're just going to work almost. Ferranti, you did 21 years, I think, something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot more than 18 months, certainly. You were immersed in the world there. You had your own evolution. In 2 sentences, what got you through those 21 years?
I mean, I set goals. I got 3 college degrees and I wrote books. I was really goal orientated. I didn't have the outside, so I had to, set goals for myself and accomplish them. And that got me through the day.
That got you through. So similar to Craig in a way, in that you had very specific goals that you set and your day was structured. Sundberg, you were in you were in solitary for how long?
4 months.
How did you get through that? Because some people could lose their mind in 4 months in solitary.
Sudoku.
Sudoku.
That's your short answer.
Push-ups? Come on, man.
Yeah, 1 word. I got 1 word for you, Richard.
All right. I've never heard you answer with 1 word to anything before. So, all right. And I think, Roger, your answer would be you found religion. That would be what got you through, huh? Is that fair?
I wouldn't call it religion. I found it to be a relationship with a person. And the person with Christ. And so I knew who I was, and I just determined I was going to make the most of every day, helping who I could and doing the best for myself every day until this thing got over with.
So Christ became your model. Christ became your model, how you fashion yourself.
Yes.
Okay. So in the spirit to continue these terse, pithy, short answers, let me ask you this one. The speed round, if you will. Rothfeld, quickly, what is something that would surprise people about prison? unexpected, and in like 2 or 3 words, what surprised you or would surprise others?
I'll tell you what I miss about
You see,
prison.
that's at the end of the answer right there.
I'll tell you what I miss
You
about
gave me
prison.
7 words. I want a total of 3, including the lead up.
2 or 3 hours of total solace on your bed.
That surprised you would surprise people about prison? That you
Yeah,
had-
I think when you're back out, there are days out here in the real world when I often think about having sat on my bed to just meditate or be alone with my
So
thoughts.
what is it that's surprising about that?
That it actually is good for you, that I actually enjoyed that time and having the ability to learn how to do that. And that it doesn't happen out here, but it was something I was able to do in there.
That you have alone time, if you will.
Yeah.
All right.
Alone time.
Cecil, what surprised you or what would surprise people about prison?
The relationships you can make with the other prisoners, the
Okay.
deep friendships, the deep respect, the deep trust.
Great answer. Divine. Divine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you were gonna say something after. That's why I waited. Nah. I'd say the same thing that Cecil said. Like, just building like lifelong friendships and brotherhoods, man. That you come across people that you would never come across in the outside world. Worlds collide, and you build these relationships, man, that could last a lifetime.
Okay. Ferranti, what surprised you or would surprise others?
Along the same lines, some of my best friends to this day I met in prison.
Wow. Interesting. Roger, what about you?
I would agree with that thing too, but I think the biggest thing that surprises people is that there are good people in prison and there are bad people in prison.
Well,
Right
I'm
on.
glad that I'm one of the good ones that was in prison.
I
glad
could
to.
vouch for that, D.
We're glad to.
You definitely are. Sundberg, what surprised you about prison?
Temperature changes. You mentioned it earlier about sitting in a room and the temperature is never comfortable.
It's
Like
too hot or too
always
cold.
too fucking cold or always too hot.
Would you
Never
sell?
like
Would you guys?
a nice 72.
Were you in a cell set?
Huh?
Were you in a cell, or did you have a dorm, like a
I'm
dorm
just
with
saying,
the?
anytime, man. I've been in cells, I've been in dorms, I've been in all this stuff, and it's never like a comfortable temperature. Like the dorms are too hot.
It's usually more colder than it's warmer.
It's and a lot of times when you're by yourself, it's just they freeze you
You
out.
have to throw your hoodie on and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, we're going to keep this going. Regardless of how long you've been in prison, it has an effect on you. Rothfeld, what was the hardest part about getting out of prison?
Sleeping through the night. I have not slept through the night once since I'm out, and I get emotional whenever I tell this, and it's amazing that this is the thing. I couldn't sleep without darkness, and so I learned the T-shirt trick. Like guys would be like, I'd never done it in my life. The guys said, "Listen, just put a T-shirt over your eyes," and I still sleep with a T-shirt over my eyes to this day.
I slept with
I can't do it. I can't sleep without
those
it.
earplugs I used to use when I got out for the
That's
same
crazy.
reason.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's so fucked up, but
It is. It's crazy.
I think in a way that, like they talk about whoobies, it's like that somehow saved me because I was able to sleep. And, I don't know, but I haven't slept through the night, Richard, not once.
How long have you been out?
July will be 4 years that I'm out.
Wow.
Wow, bro.
You got some shit still to work on, obviously.
Yeah,
Cecil,
definitely.
what was you who received a call in the middle of the night? Oh, it's the White House calling,
Ivanka.
and boom, you're out after how many, 17 years, something like that?
19 years, and I got that call on January 20th of this year. And
At what time?
what I'm having trouble adjusting to is in prison. Yes, you develop deep friendships and all that, but it takes a while. You spend a lot of time together and it takes a while. when you meet new people, you got to make sure this is a guy that's not going to turn out to be a snitch, a sex offender, you know, something like that. Whereas out on the street, people get the benefit of the doubt that you don't give in prison, and I'm having trouble making that transition.
You're having trouble trusting?
Yes.
Understandable. Roger,
You can
what's
trust
been
us,
hardest for
you?
you?
Can trust all of us hoodlums, Craig.
Yeah. Trust
I
me.
would say the thing for me was allowing people to get close to me, touch me, be in my presence, be around me. I got married this year, February 13th, to a beautiful,
Mazel tov.
yeah, to a beautiful woman. And I would tell you, she was been very patient with me and allowing me to work through the mental transition of allowing a person to touch you when you don't let people touch you in prison.
You tell me.
And to be close to you, you know, to now you have a partner with you that you're always giving accountability to. You're not just making decisions on your own. You got other people around you that you're accountable to besides a staff member or an officer in prison, you know. So those kinds of my transition has been more mental. Yes, I sleep with earplugs. Yes, you know.
Wow, same thing Richard does.
Me too.
Yes.
D, for you, what was the hardest thing when you got out?
Yo, staying crime free. Staying crime free. Being like not doing crime.
All right. So be honest now. You work with us. You're my friend, but on a day-to-day basis, does it cross your mind? And if it does, how often does it cross your mind to do something that potentially could get you in trouble again?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Done. Not at all anymore. But that was my hardest struggle, like not returning to criminal activity, because I did it. Because I have access to it. I can do it. I've done it. It's what I know. Breaking free from that was, it's been 7 years like now. So it was like, that was like the biggest thing, my challenge. And I overcame it.
Well, all I can tell you is, I like the way you think now, D.
Thank you, bro.
Tim Brown, who's in the crowd here, he said he's still using, I guess he's been out for 2.5 years, Tim, and he's still using earplugs. He mentions here, and I just wanted to share it, as it relates to his release, that he thought that everyone, and my guess is when he said thought, he probably still thinks this way, that everybody he meets knew all about him, and they all had some kind of ulterior motive, that they were trying to get over on him in some fashion.
Yeah.
And, he ends his paragraph by saying, prison mentality sucks in the free world. It's a very, very interesting sort of concept, that what you have to be and how you need to think to survive there, really doesn't serve you so well on the outside.
That's the institutionalization that you go through, man. A lot of people go through that.
Yeah. Ferranti, what was hardest for you when you got out to being free?
Technology, passwords. I went in pre-internet. I had like a 1-800 beeper. So when I got out, the cell phones and I had a hard time even, it took me almost a year to decipher between cellular and Wi-Fi. I just didn't understand how they say bandwidth, you need more bandwidth. I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? What is it? It's cellular Wi-Fi. It took me almost a year before I got the concept of bandwidth.
Explain cryptocurrency then. How about that one? Could you do that?
How much of that conversation do you think?
I know I should have bought some Bitcoin 2 years ago when it was 3,000. I should have.
Everybody's saying they should have bought Bitcoin.
Should have, would have.
But how would you know? How would you know?
You shouldn't have broken the law. That's what you shouldn't have done.
Exactly, right?
Sundberg, what was hardest for you? And I know it was not easy for you when you were released, was it?
No, I was a mess. I knew I was going to be a mess too. I just didn't know how much of a mess. And it wasn't like there was one thing that was just like, oh my God, hard. It was like all of it together. But I couldn't sit with my back to an open space, right? I always had to sit in a restaurant, sit against the wall, You know what I mean? Make sure I could see everybody. And,
Yep.
and then learning like just the social nuances again was like, oh, even like buying, you know, groceries and going, okay, oh, look, you know, look the checker in the eye, say thank you, hello, you know, got it, give the money, wait for the change, but don't leave without the change, you know, okay, now, okay, got it, put your shit in the bag, don't forget your shit, okay, now go.
You was a mess, man. You was a mess, bro.
Fucking mess.
But you're
Richard.
making progress, Seth. That's
So
the
Richard,
good
you're the
news.
only one left.
Still working on it.
Tell us, Richard.
Rothfeld, tell us what you're doing now. Tell us about Weinstein too, if you don't mind. If I don't know if that's unethical for you to do that, but at the very least, tell us about your business and make sure that you put a link so that if people need to get in touch with you, they can. So tell us about that.
So the company's called Inside Outside Limited. We are a prison advocacy and advisory firm. And I have 24 clients right now incarcerated or on their way into the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. I've got a couple other state cases in New Jersey and Connecticut, a lot of state work similar. And, you know, I get involved at many, many different points on the journey. I have clients that are in for many different types of crimes. It's not just white collar crime. I just got retained on a case the other day. Guy took a plea, murder 2. He's facing 25 to life. And the mother, you know, doesn't, you know, he killed a gang member and they're worried about him getting killed in prison. And I'm beginning work with the Department of Corrections right now just to keep the guy alive, get him in the right spot. The judge is willing to go down to maybe, you know, 20 or, or just 25 flat. So I'm working on the pre-sentencing report, and I just do a myriad of things for people that are in there. I mean, I had it's all advocacy work. It's all what you would think. I have a client who's 325 pounds, morbidly obese, takes 10 medications a day, can't survive without a CPAP machine, and I genuinely for 10 straight weeks emailed either the head of medical, the DSS, the superintendent, the chief medical officer for docs, general counsel. 10 weeks later, I got him every single new CPAP part, and I got his cell moved so that he was within like 10 yards of the infirmary.
All right.
That's the stuff I do.
Adrian posted a link to your website. And if you know somebody, or if in fact anybody who here is listening is facing incarceration or is dealing with the aftermath of it, I can tell you Craig really is a great advocate to have on your behalf, and he knows the system very well. Cecil.
Richard, I just want to say one thing. I just want to say the word Fortune Society, because that's the other end of the spectrum. It's all about reentry. It's all about people who need transitional housing and jobs and alternatives to incarceration. And I do a lot of work on that end as well. And I'd be remiss not to say it. Thank you, Adrian, for putting that link in there.
Fortune Society is an organization we know very, very well. They're one of many nonprofits out there that help create great communities. And they've been around for a long, long time. So good for you for working with them. Cecil, Last Prisoner Project is an amazing organization that you're involved with. Tell us a little more about it.
Great organization that's right at 2 years old. It was started by Jim Belushi, leading a lot of Hollywood people, and a man who owns a big chain of cannabis stores. And they decided to help people that are in prison for marijuana, especially those people being in California or like me in Illinois, where you can walk down the street and look at cannabis stores all over the place. So they put together a bunch of money and they hired on a bunch of high-level attorneys. And those attorneys knew everything about the law, trying to get people out of prison for cannabis charges, but they didn't know prisoners. So they hired me to be the link to all the prisoners and to the people getting out. And it's just one example. There's a woman who just 2 weeks ago got out of prison after serving 216 months for a marijuana charge. Jesus. Unfortunately, she's a Jamaican citizen, so they have her on home waiting to be deported. But she can't leave her home, and she's got 2 GPS devices and all that. But I was able to send her some money and some services to, to help her get food to the house and all that. And I got a phone call today that was hysterical. She was so proud that she was finally, after nearly 20 years, able to eat chicken feet again.
Chicken feed?
She eats chicken feet, and she went through telling me
Feet,
all that
not
it takes
feed.
to prepare chicken feet. But
Feet
this
or
was the
feed?
Feet.
feet.
Oh, with a T. Okay.
Yes.
It's not
I
that
didn't even
appealing
know
to
people
me.
ate chicken feet except maybe Asian people, but apparently Jamaican people do. And if you've ever heard somebody so excited about being able to eat chicken feet after being away from it for 20 years.
Yeah, poor chickens.
It was worth waiting for, I'm sure. Ferranti, we know about White Boy. Again, I have friends who make films. I watch them, I read their books. I go, yeah, whatever. And I have to say something nice. And that was what I was expecting when I tuned into your documentary on Netflix. And it's fucking great. It's really a well done, gripping, exciting, high production value, on and on. Check it out. He doesn't need me to plug it because it's like perennially top 10 on Netflix, but check it out. But what else are you working on, Seth?
I mean, I got a bunch of other docs in the works, in productions. I mean, if you want to find out about more, I got a bunch of books out, but you can check me out, SethFerranti.com, GorillaConvict.com. That was a blog I started in prison and has all my gangster books. But yeah, I got more stuff in the works, man. So, it's all in the pipeline. So it'll be coming out. And look, before I go too, I want to shout out to my homegirl, Mariah Cedar. She's on here listening to us. So Mariah, what's up? Thanks for listening.
Mariah.
Appreciate it.
Mariah,
Hey, Mariah.
you're on fire.
Mariah, you got to come out to LA, to California. We've been talking about that. I would love to meet you when you make it out here.
No, I'm gonna be there sooner or later. Sooner than later.
I know. I hear you saying. I keep hearing you saying it. We lost Roger, but I'm sure we'll have the opportunity to have him back.
You
Look at
spoke
that.
him up.
He's back. He's back.
Look at that. That's Adrian. That's a champ behind the scenes on the job.
The voice of God.
Yeah.
Roger, tell us what you're up to. Can people get a hold of you?
Yes, they can. My email is rogercullen07@gmail.com. My phone number, you can get a phone number. I don't have a website set up as of yet. We do broadcast our ministry meetings, our services on YouTube. It's New Hope Ministries, Commerce City of Colorado. We go on YouTube where they are every week. We broadcast on there. And my phone number, I give phone number. I wouldn't mind having talk to any of the guys who are on here, any of the people on here. I have a lot to offer, and I want to hear what they have to offer.
Great. All right. Thank you. That's kind of you. And I hope you'll come back,
Absolutely.
and we'll have you as a guest, but you're always welcome just to hang out and share your thoughts. And, on speaking on behalf of everybody, thank God you're out and you're back with us. So welcome
Absolutely.
home.
Thank you.
D, you are an entrepreneur that never stops. What else are you working on right now? You're allowed to say it. I know you're working with us, but you got other action, right?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about my next play in fintech, potentially. Just been seeing how that could possibly go. There's a lot of African American or Black founders are able to get money, where before that was harder to do in the past. This money just keeps falling from the sky. I'm seeing other people just getting money left and right. So there's potentially doing something in fintech again.
Okay. Seth, do you want to share anything, or talk about Commissary Club for a minute, would you?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, this is what it's all about. Like this is like the brotherhood, right? That's coming together. I've been gone for a couple of weeks and haven't been on the yard, so it's great, hanging out with you guys and I mean, that's what Commissary Club
In sisterhood.
And sisterhood, absolutely. I say brotherhood, being multi-gendered, as things are now.
I want to close just with a couple of things. Number one, we made a deal and we're going to have our platform, which is our entire employment thing, our job board, as well as Commissary Club, the social network. It's going to be going to inside of prisons. We're going to be on hundreds of thousands of tablets that are in jails and prisons across the country. So we're going to be able to connect with our brothers and sisters in prison and hopefully be available to them as they're released and be part of their reentry strategy. So we're very, very excited about that news. Next week, we have somebody pretty amazing who's going to be joining us. His name is Freddie Gibbs, and he is currently one of the top hip hop artists in the music industry. I was on Twitter earlier today, and somebody had asked the question, who are the top 5 hip hop artists that are happening right now? And every one of them mentioned Freddie Gibbs is one of them. Freddie has had his experience with the criminal justice system, and he's going to be joining us. There will be news about our association with Meek Mill and his record label and some cool things we're doing with him. That'll be coming out soon, so stay tuned. Let's see, what else?
Commissary Club is on iOS right now.
Yes, so we launched our mobile-only app, Commissary Club. It's on iOS. So if you have an iPhone, it will be available on Android in a couple of weeks. We'll certainly make sure to let you know about it. And since you had to register to come on the yard tonight, we know how to reach you and where you live. And we will be letting you know about this, but we would love to invite you early to get on there. We have all kinds of things to officially launch it, so it's sort of in a beta format, as they say, but please check it out. We think it's really double cool. And again, our goal is to connect people. If you or someone you think would be a good guest on the yard, please reach out to Adrienne. If you don't already have her contact info, it will be posted shortly when I stop talking. We have a crowdfund campaign that's going on Republic, republic.co, and you can find us there. And if you feel motivated, in my opinion, if you invest in our company, you will make a lot of money. That's what I think. And I have always made my partners a lot of money. So take that under advisement. And if you have $2 and that's what you want to invest, that's probably more important to us than the guy who's investing 200,000, quite frankly. But if you got 200,000, that would be cool too. We'll take either one.
We'll take it.
We will be back next week. Have I forgotten anything, Seth?
I think that's good, man.
I think that's about it. Listen, Craig Rothfeld, it was a pleasure to have you. We could be talking for hours and hours, I have no doubt. So please be part of the family. Please hang out with us. Cecil, you are always a pleasure, and it always does my heart good to have you here and to see you smile. It's really one of the nicest things I can think of in my life. Ferranti, my brother, you are a monster, and you just keep amazing me more and more with all you bring. Yeah, okay. Other than that, but Ferranti's amazing. Again, check out Netflix. Roger, it was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for joining us and opening up and sharing all this stuff. We really appreciate it. Vine and Seth, my 2 brothers, thank you for joining me and us again and being all that you are. You're amazing guys. And thank you, everybody who's been listening and watching. We have certain people who show up every week, and I cannot begin to tell you from the bottom of my heart what that means to us to have you here and be part of our family and support us like this. So thank you so much for that. We will see you next week with Freddie Gibbs, and it should be pretty cool when he's here. So have a good night, everybody. Stay safe. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
That's a
Thank you.
wrap.